Some cursed Japanese stories are only good as stories, cause if a curse ever showed up in real life, I don't think anyone would know what to do. Recently, I started watching this Japanese film series where every movie is packed with small demonic tales. You probably remember Goosebumps. I recapped part 1 and part 2 just a few days ago. In Japanese, it's called Torihada. These stories are not clean or straightforward. You never really know what's happening or why it is happening, but something is definitely going on. And if something like that happened to us in real life, we wouldn't survive. Probably. That's the magic of Japanese horror. Modern horror movies don't have this quality anymore. I feel like modern films try to be too well balanced, and honestly, a horror movie should never be well balanced. Anyway, sit tight, cause I'm back with Goosebumps Part 3, and these stories are seriously terrifying. That's why watch this video till end. I am Karryshh and you're watching Demonic Archives, where I bring you stories you have never heard before. Subscribe, like and share, and follow me on Instagram if you want to talk to me personally. Now let's dive straight into Goosebumps. The movie opens with a clock. It stops at 12:35. The owner of the house, Miyoko, comes home late at night. She turns on the bath water and notices her mother is missing. She finds a letter. It was from her mother saying she was out and will be back in the morning. Now here the silence in the house is so loud it feels unsettling. Miyoko turns on the TV, but all she gets is static. Now she's confused cause she knows the TV should be showing a program called Goosebumps. But then it starts and we cut to the first story. Sweet Invitation is the call of death. Basically, death's invitation. This story is about Takeru, who has just moved into a new apartment. His whole day is pretty normal, though the way the film is shot, even a normal day feels creepy. Night falls and Takeru goes to bed. Everything is fine until he hears a guy and a girl in the next apartment making some noise. They're clearly fooling around and Takeru finally yells at them. He tells them to shut the fuck up and he goes back to sleep. Takeru is sleeping peacefully, but later that night, now the sounds you just heard, these sounds get him curious, so he presses his ear against the wall to listen. Soon the couple started talking normally. There was nothing demonic at all, but suddenly a drill punches right through the wall, stopping inches from Takeru's face. Now if Takeru had placed his ear even slightly differently, he would have died instantly. His body obviously freezes. Then he hears the couple talking. They were upset that there was no blood on the drill machine, meaning they did it on purpose. They were trying to unalive him. That's when Takeru notices the wall is filled with holes. This couple has clearly done this many times. They're serial killers who murder people just like this. After realizing that, Takeru cannot sleep for nights. There were no ghosts in this story, but imagine being in Takeru's place. Your heart would be pounding out of your chest. We cut back to Miyoko, who's completely shaken after this story. She freaks out so much that she runs over and presses her ear against the wall. She tries to hear if her neighbors are serial killers too. Honestly, after seeing a drill burst through a wall, putting your ear on it again has to be the dumbest decision ever. Anyway, she turns off her bath water, and that's when the second story begins. The law of cause and effect of noise and soundlessness. This story follows Hiyori, a teenage girl who's clearly stressed or depressed. She's blasting rock music at full volume in her ears. The music is so loud that even people around her can hear it through her headphones, and everyone is getting irritated. Hiyori gets off at a station and switches platform for another train. She sits down and starts blasting her music again. The music was loud enough that the guy sitting beside her actually gets up and leaves. Then a few minutes later, chaos breaks out on the station. People start screaming. There's a full-on stampede. People are getting injured. As viewers, it was obvious something demonic is happening in the station. But Hiyori, she has no idea because she's lost in her music. This is why people say don't listen to loud music in public. By the time the entire station empties out and goes silent, Hiyori finally snaps back to reality and realizes everyone is gone. She doesn't even get a moment to process it because right in front of her, a blood-soaked serial unaliver appears. He's the one who attacked everyone at the station. He walks up to Hiyori and unalive her brutally. And honestly, after this story, I hope you all keep your volume low in public places. Now back to Miyoko again. She's about to take a bath, but suddenly she feels eyes on her, like someone is watching her. She checks the balcony and gets terrified. In the building across from hers, a guy is standing at his window, staring directly at her. Miyoko's whole body freezes. She starts thinking that maybe she's going to end up as the final victim of this horror movie. But now we jump into another story titled Always Lock Your Doors. This one is about Shizuka, who lives alone. She gets news about a serial killer roaming the area. He's been unaliving people nearby, and every day there's a new victim. All the victims are women who live alone. That's why Shizuka instantly panics cause she's living by herself as well. Just then, her friend calls and says the latest murder happened right near Shizuka's house. The friend wants to go check out the crime scene with her, but Shizuka's not interested. She's very cautious about this kind of stuff, and rightfully so, because she's living alone. The news also mentions that the killer wears a baseball cap and glasses, so people should stay away from anyone who looks like that. Night falls and the doorbell rings. A man outside says the building manager sent him to check the fire alarm. Says the manager didn't tell Shizuka anything about this, she refuses. But the man insists. He says the manager didn't inform anyone else in the building either, yet he's already checked fire alarms in 5 other apartments. After seeing his contract, Shizuka finally lets him in. The moment he steps inside, he puts on a baseball cap, meaning his look suddenly matches the serial killer's description. But Shizuka doesn't notice because when the news showed the killer's appearance earlier, she was busy cooking. Once inside, the guy starts making weird comments while working, saying things like how Shizuka lives alone, how the recent murder happened nearby, and how the killer could easily target someone like her because she is by herself. His creepy remarks send chills down Shizuka's spine, but she tries to ignore it. He then describes what the killer supposedly looks like and suddenly steps behind her. He says he needs to use the bathroom. Shizuka lets him go, but the moment he enters, she rushes and grabs an electric taser. She now moves quietly. The man, after using the washroom, begins checking the fire alarm inside the bathroom, and that's when Shizuka hears a strange moaning sound. Either he was touching himself or he was terrified. She goes to check what happened, but the man suddenly attacks her, looking almost demonic. But Shizuka hits him with the taser, knocking him out cold. She starts breathing heavily, and then the news plays on TV with an update. According to eyewitnesses, the serial killer actually wears black framed glasses, which means this man wasn't the killer. You're probably wondering why did he attack her then? Well, here's the twist. He wasn't attacking her. He was trying to escape the bathroom because inside the bathroom was the serial killer's dead body. We realized that Shizuka had already unalived the serial killer earlier. He must have come to her house to murder her, but she ended up unaliving him first. Then when the technician saw the corpse, he panicked and tried to run. But because Shizuka was paranoid and terrified for her life, she knocked him too. She was way too on edge. What I don't understand is why she didn't call the police after unaliving the murderer. Some parts of these Japanese horror psychology just don't make sense to me. And it's a good thing, cause it keeps the mystery alive. Now we return to Miyoko again. She calls her friend and tells her about the creepy guy staring at her from the opposite apartment. According to her friend, Tokyo can be a dangerous place, so it's better for Miyoko to avoid getting involved with that guy. Her friend advises her to just take a bath and go to sleep. Then after this call, Miyoko was too scared to even approach her window. This leads us into the next story, the ear's illusionary bug. This one is about a girl named Kayako. She's walking home alone late at night when suddenly she hears a strange sound behind her. Now Kayako hears that strange sound twice, but every time she looks back, no one is there. She keeps talking to her boyfriend on the phone the entire walk home. When she reaches her gate, she hangs up, but right before unlocking the door, she hears the same sound again. Kayako immediately checks the street. No one. She locks herself inside and panics. She was convinced someone was following her. She tries to calm herself down and goes to take a shower, but even while showering, the same sound keeps bothering her. By this point, Kayako is fully convinced someone is right behind her, even though the entire house is empty. After her bath, she calls her friend and tells her everything. But since Kayako didn't actually see anyone, there is not much the friend can do. She just tells Kayako not to overthink and to call her if anything weird happens. Then that night, Kayako sleeps with the lights on, but soon the sound returns, and it was coming from inside her closet. Terrified, Kayako checks it, but the closet is stuffed from top to bottom. Nobody could possibly hide there. Somehow, she calms herself again and goes to sleep, but even in her sleep, the sound haunts her. Then the scene zooms into Kayako's ear, and inside, something is crawling, a strange little bug. Meaning, instead of being careful, Kayako really needed a doctor's appointment because the sounds she kept hearing were coming from that bug. Not every noise means there's a ghost. Sometimes you just need to clean your ears. And to be fair, this can actually happen. An insect can crawl into your ear and cause weird sounds. These parasites are rare but real. They are usually of two types: ear mites, which are tiny bugs that live happily inside the ear, or fly larvae, because some species of flies lay egg near the ear and those eggs later hatch into worms. Now doctors can treat this and there's nothing to be afraid of, but Kayako however didn't know that. The next day, she goes to work and hears the strange sound again. She now panics because she doesn't know she needs to see a doctor instead of being scared. Now we cut back to Miyoko. She gathers the courage to check the balcony again, and that man is still there. Same position. He hasn't moved an inch. Miyoko panics and immediately tries calling her friend, but this time her friend doesn't pick up. Terrified, Miyoko curls up in a corner and starts crying, which is honestly a terrible move. What would you do? Let me know in the comment box. Because now another demonic story begins. This one is called "You Will Tremble from This Girl's Love." We meet Takeshi. He's staying at the Olympic Hotel in a place called Shinjuku. He's scrolling through an escort app looking for girls to call over for the night. You get the idea. And yes, services like this really exist in Japan. Takeshi keeps rejecting all the girls, calling them ugly. After a while, he finally picks a 24-year-old girl named Kaoru. He calls the fashion company and asks them to send Kaoru to his hotel for the night. Sometime later, the girl arrives at his door. But the moment Takeshi sees her, he freezes. She does not look beautiful. Her eyes are sunken and she has a creepy, unsettling smile. Takeshi instantly realizes this can't be Kaoru. He tells the girl to call for someone else instead. She calls the company and they tell her that they will send a girl named Hitomi in 10 minutes. After hearing that, Takeshi heads back into the room. 10 minutes later, it's already 2 a.m. Someone knocks again. Takeshi opens the door and it's the same girl. This time she tells him her name is Hitomi. Takeshi is stunned and sends her back home. He immediately calls Passion Company and explains everything. The guy on the phone is confused cause according to him, both Kaoru and Hitomi were sent on time. But the girl at Takeshi's door doesn't look like Kaoru or Hitomi. The company apologizes and says that they will now send their best girl, Yuko. Then 15 minutes later, the doorbell rings again. Takeshi opens the door and bam, it's the same demonic girl. This time she says her name is Yuko. Now Takeshi loses his temper and calls the company again, but he makes one big mistake. He leaves the door open for the girl. Now while Takeshi is yelling at the manager, the man puts him on hold to call Yuko. And right then, that creepy girl quietly walks inside and shuts the door. Takeshi's soul practically leaves his body because now she's holding a bloody knife. Suddenly her phone starts ringing, but that phone wasn't hers. You see, the phone was Yuko's because the manager was calling her. She also has Hitomi's phone, which means this girl is actually Kaoru, and Kaoru had murdered both Hitomi and Yuko. My theory, you may ask, something bad must have happened to Kaoru while working for Passion Company. You might already know how these adult services company treat their employees. That's why maybe Kaoru finally snapped. She's completely lost it. She unalived the two girls and then she unalived Takeshi while smiling at him. In the creepiest way possible. The next morning, Kaoru leaves with her belongings, ready to start a new life. Now we jump into another story straight forward. This one is named You Shouldn't Run on the Road. We meet Satoru, a regular 9 to 5 guy. Early in the morning, he heads out for work. Everything looks like a typical boring day. He stands with a crowd waiting to cross the street. Among the people is an older man named Yamamoto, who keeps staring at Satoru. When the light changes and people start walking, Yamamoto purposely walks beside Satoru. Now if this happened to any of us in public, we will feel weird as well. Satoru slows down and Yamamoto slows down with him. Then Yamamoto starts smiling, a strange, unsettling smile. Suddenly Yamamoto starts speed walking, like he's making fun of Satoru. Satoru gets annoyed and soon they're both playing this weird little game, trying to outwork each other. It feels childish, but honestly both of them were probably exhausted with their boring lives, so the moment this game started, it actually made them feel alive for a bit. Their silly walk-off soon turns into a full-on chase, but while running, Yamamoto crashes straight into a truck and dies instantly, and that's why you should never run on the road. What was worse is that Satoru doesn't care at all. He just keeps walking to work while talking on the phone because he has a job to do and a family to support. That's the whole story. Don't trust strangers, and it shows how trapped 9 to 5 workers can get in their own routine. This is why I personally hate that lifestyle. Now finally we return to Miyoko. She remembers her mother's letter and thinks about calling her, but then decides not to bother her. She drinks some water, tries to calm herself and once again checks the window. And the guy is still there, still staring at her, still not moving even an inch, which is obviously beyond strange. This time, Miyoko finally uses her brain and calls the police. She explains everything and soon the police arrive at the man's apartment. Miyoko watches from her balcony and then the final truth comes out. The man wasn't staring at her. He had unalived himself in his apartment. He was dead. That's why he never moved. The police start handling the body and Miyoko, stunned, sits on her bed. A moment later, she starts laughing in a disturbed way. She was relieved because she was scared for no reason. She doesn't feel a shred of sadness about the man's death. Maybe she realizes just how strange human beings really are. Her broken clock suddenly starts ticking again, and the story ends on that eerie note. Well, that was the recap of Torihada, aka Goosebumps Part 3. We saw how tiny everyday situation can turn deadly. Staying alert and aware of your surroundings can save your life. This series reminds us that horror exists everywhere around us. One small mistake or wrong choice can bring that horror to life. And now you probably understood why I always say Japanese horror hits differently. It captures the true meaning of fear in a way modern cinema cannot. Tell me in the comment box how you like these stories. There are more parts to this series, so if you want me to cover them, make sure to subscribe. Demonic Archives bring you the best horror recaps. If you want to talk to me personally, follow me on Instagram, and I also post updates on Telegram regularly. Thank you for watching this video. Now stay safe, stay alert and stay happy, cause they always see you.